our final full practice. Any questions coming up?
Can you go when he comes back? Can you go shot physical practice in a couple weeks right into like a relatively normal rotation, or what do you
Yeah, it would be a pitch count. Anyone who's coming back into really first contact. We did it kind of with Javonte. We've done it. It'd be, and I can't give you the, but we wouldn't look for 60 or 70 snaps, but we'd put him on a pitch count.
obviously seeing almost all your guys now for the first time? What have you made of him? Just seeing him?
Man, he's strong and physical, and then he's explosive. Like you feel, and I know we're not going live, but you can see his explosiveness. And I would say there's some players that are heavy-handed. He's one of those guys.
Those guys at
Do
the
you expect to IR Greg and then activate Barrett?
Yeah, that's a scenario. All right.
those guys on the edge, Coop, Nick Benito, Barron, how do their skill sets complement each other as a group?
Well, I don't think they're trying to complement each other. You have to have a skill set. Do you bring speed? Do you bring ed? You have to be physical in this front. It's different than just your third down rush package because you're setting an edge, and so each one of them is a little different. I could go into what I read with each player, but and then generally speaking, when you're looking at that position, you ask yourself, is he a pressure player? And you have to answer that question honestly. Can he impact the passing game? All right, some guys play that position on first and second down, and they come out. But is he a pressure player? And then if not, is he physical, setting an edge? And I think that's my experience with those players in this type of system.
Sean, I know you talked about it Wednesday, but has there been an emphasis on winning at home?
I just told them I'm tired of sitting at the podium talking to you guys, not playing well at home. So, yeah, it's time. I mean, we've got a good home field event. We got great tradition at home, crowd noise, all of those things that can help us, and we need to take advantage of it. Now, this crew that's officiating this weekend is right. Of 17, they're second in fouls called, line of scrimmage. I could go on and on. So, we got to be smart at the line of scrimmage and take advantage of the noise.
And then is there, I guess, a reference or preparation? You've seen Packers fans travel all over the league, and we know that I'm sure there'll be a few here.
Yeah, I didn't even discuss that. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. We travel well too.
Sean, yesterday, Jerry Jeudy was saying a better gauge of his play is the film, not so much the statistics. Do you concur with this?
Well, look,
assessment?
here's what happens sometimes. We were watching red zone cut-ups of ourselves the other night. And, some of the reads, all of a sudden, Brandon Johnson's got 3 touchdowns. And some of them, he wasn't primary. And so I think we can all be guilty of how many touchdowns does he have, how many. And so we try to grade the tape properly and look at, man, is he playing? And so we'll continue to get him touches. And hopefully you'll have a chance to see more big play opportunities. But sometimes they don't necessarily go to the primary receiver. And Brandon's been the primary, don't get me wrong, but he's found himself on the positive end, of a handful of plays.
Russ is relentlessly positive, but how would you?
I like that.
How do you think he's responded? His last couple of weeks have been a little rugged.
Yeah,
How do you think
listen,
he's responded this week?
fantastic. Early morning notes, he prepares like all of the top guys do, and if you ever did a work week in the life of a quarterback, it's pretty not exhausting, but it's long.
What sort of threat does Jordan Love pose with his legs?
Well, he's athletic. We never talk about a quarterback's threat with their legs if they're just pocket passers. So you answered the question already. It's the third down when you choose to play man and your eyes are on players as opposed to zone. You got to be on point with your rush plan. If you're playing zone, your eyes are through. But if you're, he's not the type of player you're going to play 2-man against, where everyone's eyes are on the routes. Now, there's some quarterbacks you're comfortable with that. So your third down, that comes to mind. Rushing him properly comes to mind.
Sean, you guys had some good short yardage rush success with your jumbo tight end, but you guys have also found a couple splash pass plays. With that, how has that kind of formation evolved for you? And your
Yeah,
over the years?
look, sometimes it's a result of your depth you know, our line coach Streif here for his first, before he became a starting right tackle for us, they actually sold jerseys in New Orleans that said Streif reporting on the back with his jersey because they heard it so much. But we were a tight end short. Now we sign a guy like Manhertz, and, you know, maybe we aren't in as much jumbo because we feel like we got a really good point of attack blocker. So a lot of times it's a result of, you know, the ebb and flow of the season and your health at tight end. And when you look at your roster numbers, you know, all of a sudden you're trying to say, hey, we need, you know, it's not that you just go with, but we've had to go with two tight ends before. I was in New York as the coordinator in a game where on one play, two tight ends got hurt. And so we had to finish that game with one tight end that really couldn't block at all. All right. And so that's difficult. And then the following week, I'm sure we had a heavy jumbo pack, you know, so a lot of times it's a byproduct of your depth and skill set at tight end.
As a quick follow-up, is there a certain thing you look for in the offensive
There's-
lineman that does?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just going to, you know, do we have a jumbo that we think is smart? And then see if this makes sense. Sometimes you don't know if you're getting base, defense, or nickel. And film study tells you if you put jumbo in, you'll get base. And sometimes I want to make sure I get base. It's harder when you have a guy like Jimmy Graham or Greg, for instance. You know, a lot of times defenses will treat him as a receiver nickel. So there's a kind of back and forth. You know, when you game plan, you'd like to know what the play is designed for. And so maybe you want nickel and you want to show it. And then if you want base, then you got to figure out, you know, do I need Burt on the field? You know, sometimes in all those years in New Orleans, pretty soon teams just waited. And if I sent the fullback on the field with three receivers, we'd get base. That was just their easy way to calm everything down. So a lot goes into the tight ends on a play, whether we're getting base or sub.
Sean, you had lots of good running back combinations, you know, Deuce and Sproles or Red here. But with Ingram and Kamara a couple of years ago, can you see similarities to what they were able to do with what Jaleel and Javonte could end up being?
Yeah, look, fair question. I'm not ready to give Jaleel the Joker tag yet, and he's doing extremely well, and he's working at that. I think we're seeing him running the screens well, even his yardage as a ball carrier. The other thing takes time, and so, you know, having Coach Marshall Faulk at San Diego State, and then I was spoiled, you know, with Bush and then Sproles and then Kamara. Those guys all were like prototype jokers, but we're working on it. He comes up every other night to look at film with some of these guys, and we work on a route, and just, you know, he's here longer than anyone. You know, he and the center Forsyth are here early and late, and you know, he's just every day it's something new he's learning. You know, I kid him. I said, they didn't teach you this at Youngstown, so here we go. And then he gets it. So he's eager, and he has a chance to be like that.
Talk about vision for players with Riley Moss at this point, just given the way he's behind. Is it mostly special teams for the rest of the year, or could you see him?
Listen, it's a great question, and it's the same question every week when we look at the stat line, and I'm like, man, I got to get Mims more touches. You know, the vision for him is outside corner. Do I think he can play nickel? Yes. But he's long. He's prototype for the outside position. So we just got to keep looking at ways where, you know, within each plan, can we use him? Clearly, we like him in the kicking game.
When you're developing a player, is it possible to put that player out there too soon before they're ready and hinder their development?
Yeah, listen, I think so. I think depending on the position, you know, they might be coming off an injury. They might be young. Sometimes there's going to be some growing pains on the field, and that's part of the deal, you know. And so if you're talking about a young player and you go back to those early years with Peyton Manning, you know, and Indy weren't, and then, but those were learning, you know, it's hard to simulate some of that. And then now if you're talking about health, I think it's that balance of, you know, kind of re-entry. But I think your question was relative to their development as a young player. You play them when you feel like they help give you a chance to win. And I feel, strongly in a number of these young guys. I mean, the same way with Sanders, Drew. I mean, listen, we continue to look at how many snaps can we give him. He's progressing, and so those are good problems with young players, but I hope I answered it right. All right, thank you guys.